Hi everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar on creating alignment on behalf of Raise the Bar. I'm Annabelle Graham. I'm a leadership coach and consultant. Some of you will know who Raise the Bar is, and some of you won't necessarily have come across them before. So I'd just like to introduce them to you. So Raise the Bar are a learning and development company with a difference. They draw on first-hand experience to deliver world-class results and help individuals, teams and organisations develop their competitive edge, build motivation and help drive engagement. They work globally and deliver development for delegates across a wide range of sectors. And no other development company has their unparalleled access to over 500 specialist thought leaders. So today we're here to talk about creating alignment and how you can achieve that within your organisations and businesses. The webinar is probably going to be about 45 minutes long, and I'll be hosting a Q&A after the webinar on Twitter. So if you want to tweet any questions that you have as you go along using the hashtag that's on the screen, R2BWebinar, that would be great, and then we'll pick those up afterwards and come back to you. So some of you may know what creating alignment is, and others of you may be thinking, what on earth is she talking about? So we're going to cover three things today. First of all, I'm going to talk about what creating alignment is and what that means within organisations and teams. I'm going to talk about the benefit of it and how that can be seen both in your team or your function or department or throughout the organisation. And then I'm going to talk about the 5 steps that you need to have in place to be able to create alignment. So let me start with a story. On May the 25th in 1961, John F. Kennedy announced before a special joint session of Congress the dramatic and somewhat ambitious goal of sending an American safely to the moon before the end of the decade. The Apollo project became the largest American project in history besides building the Panama Canal. Now, NASA had already been in existence at that point. They'd been around since 1958 and they had over 8,000 employees. But this was now their single focus to be able to achieve that piece. So the next year, Kennedy went to visit the NASA Space Center to see everybody there because it had been redone, and noticed a janitor carrying a broom. And he interrupted his tour and walked over to the man and said, "Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy. What are you doing?" "Well, Mr. President," the janitor responded, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." And that's quite crucial because the janitor got it. He understood the vision and he understood the part he played in it. And he also had a purpose other than the seemingly mundane role of a day-to-day job. So let's put that into context. In an organisation of over 8,000 employees, JFK was able to walk up to someone with one of the lowest unimportant jobs, and this person could tell him exactly why he was there and how his job linked back to the company's vision and purpose. How many of you could do that? If I went into your business tomorrow and went to speak to somebody at the lowest level of your organisation, say to Molly, who might be a cleaner or might be a grad or a receptionist, or maybe an intern working for you, or to Jack, who could be an apprentice or a security guard, a weekend worker, or in part of your admin team. If I said to Molly and Jack, why is it you do what you do and what is the point of your role? And more importantly, how do the actions that you're working on and the development plan that you have link back to the company goals? What would they say? Would Molly be able to articulate that back to me really clearly in a very simple fashion and say, my role is, for example, to help improve customers' lives? And I've sat down with my line manager, and yes, we've agreed goals that really linked about what I need to achieve personally, but also to what the department needs to achieve and ultimately what the business needs to achieve. Would you hear that? Or would you get maybe Jack's response, who would look at me as if I was growing horns out the top of my head and say, I don't know, I was just told to stand here and check people in the building, and what's this development plan thing? I've not heard of one of those. Because the reality is, if Molly and Jack have no idea, you haven't got alignment within your organisation. So let's look at what is organisational alignment, because it's been around for a little while. Kaplan and Norton, who were the originators of the balanced scorecard, first talked about aligned organisations back in an article for Harvard Business Review in 2006. And the quote that I've got on the screen here is from McKinsey in 2014. And they describe alignment as a way of bringing meaningful purpose, practical strategies, and goals together, making an organization's aspirations more credible, but also more likely to be achieved. Now, what organizational alignment means is that every level of your business, whether it be at the board, at directorate or function level, at department level, team level, right down to individual, everyone has their goals aligned back to that vision, purpose, and strategic goals of your organization. And that all of the goals at the lower levels, so whether it be those individual goals, or those team ones, or those department ones, automatically deliver the goals of the level above. So that in this way, every part of your organization is pulling in the same direction and is ultimately focused on delivering the same thing. So why is this important? Well, first of all, it gets better results. And everybody ends up working on the right things. And when they all work on the right things and they're all working in the same direction, more is accomplished because of it. Secondly, teamwork increases. And that means because everybody understands what those objectives are and they're all going in the same direction to achieve the same end game, they are much more likely to be collaborative, work together, and not jeopardize anybody else's goal because they're all ultimately working for the same thing. And because of that, performance and profitability rises, which everybody wants at the end of the day. And bearing in mind the uncertain situation that we're in the moment in the UK with Brexit paving a somewhat very indistinct path that we have going forward, it's even more crucial than ever to ensure that all our people are pulling in the same direction, especially when that direction may need to change very quickly and we need to be very agile in how we work. You know, if everyone is working on the right things, then that's really going to help us succeed in what we want to achieve. Now, there are numerous examples of success stories where teams and organizations have been aligned. If we look at the world of sport example, in the last year alone, we see 3 outstanding examples. You know, if you take Leicester City, so they went from what, 5,001 league outsiders to league champions? Phenomenal results. I mean, admittedly, they're not having such a great year this year, to be fair, but we can't take away the result that they had. In the summer, we had Wales, who were the poor cousin to UK football and ended up coming out as semi-finalists in the Euros and totally turning on a nation who were rugby obsessed to that other sport that they should be paying attention to as well. And probably the one that engaged me most was the women's hockey team at the Olympics, who back in 2014 had been 14th in the world, but ended up keeping a nation glued at 9 o'clock at night for the best part of a week until they ultimately won gold. And they had been really key about thinking about what their purpose was and how they aligned behind that and got the clarity within their team of 31 so that everybody knew what they were going to do. And they said they wanted to be the difference, create history and inspire the future. And if that's not a common purpose that gets you out of bed in the morning, I'm not sure what is. But there are organizations where this happens too. And I just want to introduce you to 3 of them, because these have been very successful over a number of years at enabling alignment within their business and actually demonstrating that profit and performance increase that comes from the back end. So first of all, you've got Zappos, who you may or may not have heard of. They were the first Pan-American online retailer in the US before Amazon came along, and they're a shoe retailer. And they were started as a startup in 1999 by Tony Hsieh. And he had a vision of meeting and exceeding customer expectations. Now, Hsieh recruited probably the first 100, 150 people into his organization individually, because he was really keen that they shared the vision of what he wanted to achieve and the passion for service. Because their purpose, which is on the screen here, is really key. You know, at the bottom of it, they're a service company. They just happen to sell shoes, handbags, and various other stuff. And what he wanted was people who gave a damn about their customers. He didn't care if they'd worked in retail. He didn't care if they'd worked in a call center before. He didn't care if they had any experience in what he was trying to do. What he cared about is whether they were passionate about service. And initially, his investors weren't really sure if that was going to take off, because in the first year they were trading, he only took $1.6 million. But 8 years later, they'd taken nearly $1 billion a year. And in 2009, Amazon bought them for 1.2 billion. And they're still the only company that Amazon own that are allowed to trade under their own name, because the power of the message that Zappos get across is so strong. And as well as being successful from a profit point of view, they were also in the Fortune 100 best companies to work for and have been in the top 10 since 2009. So it works for the people as well as for the results. And if you take Continental Airlines, it's a similar message. So back in 1996, when Gordon Bethune took over as their CEO, they were ranked globally in every performance category. This was not an airline you wanted to travel on. But he recognised that his customers valued on-time performance, and he set that as a measure of success for the company and incentivised his teams because of that. And what he ended up with was, in different cities, they had pilots, flight attendants, agents, mechanics, and baggage handlers, everyone united together to achieve that one goal, which really reinforced the feeling of one team. From a results point of view, it took their share price from $2 to $50 in the time that he was running the company, and they became #1 in service globally and won more JD Power survey awards for service than any other airline, and also were the Fortune 100 best company to work for 6 years in a row. Finally, we get to Disney, who has to be one of the most successful purveyors of this. And whether you like the Disney message or not, they unite around a purpose to make people happy. And while they give pleasure to millions of people every year, they also haven't not seen a year-on-year sales increase since 1991. And that's a phenomenal record, and why they're now turning over $550 billion globally. So how great would it be if everyone in your organization could articulate goals that clearly and all be pulling in the same direction? Because the thing that was really important in these businesses is that it was everybody's job to communicate company strategy. It wasn't just the job of the CEO. It wasn't just Tony Hsieh or Gordon Bethune. It was everybody's job. And their business was set up around a vision which clearly articulated what they needed to achieve, a common purpose which pulled everybody together and made them understand why they were there and what they were to deliver. Some really clear strategic pillars that they could organise their goals and objectives around, and a set of values that engaged their people and laid down the foundations for how they were going to behave. And that wasn't just done at company level, that was then fed down to department and function level. So if you're sitting here thinking, well, I don't run an organisation, but I do run a team and I want to do this in my team, then actually you can start at that level alone, because even then it will still make a difference. Because at department and function level, you will then set a team purpose, because actually how a marketing team may interpret the company's common purpose might be slightly different to how the finance team may interpret it or how HR may interpret it. But ultimately, they will all be there to deliver the vision. So at department level, you'll have a team purpose, and you'll have functional goals that will link into the strategic pillars, and team behaviours that demonstrate the values of the organisation. And then you'll drip down to that bottom level of the pyramids that I was talking about earlier. And we'll get to the individuals, where we'll have individual SMART goals that link into those functional goals and link back to the strategic pillars. And the targets and the KPIs that those people are set on an individual basis will ultimately deliver the vision that the company needs to achieve. And their behavioural competencies will underpin the team behaviours and be guided by the values. So everything is enmeshed together. And then it's really important to go down and make sure that everybody understands it. And it's important to think about Jack and Molly in this. Because Jack and Molly are going to come back as a theme, because they are absolutely vital. And they are the most important representatives of your business. Because until Jack and Molly can explain why they are here and how their role contributes to the bigger picture, you haven't achieved alignment in your business. Because remember, they are the least likely people who are going to be invited to the company conference or to the update, or to read the intranet or a 100-page annual business plan or annual review, or to be involved in department goal setting. They are given their information, and unless their manager is communicating the purpose and strategic focus to them at every level, then they are not going to know what it is, and more to the point, frankly, they aren't going to care. So Molly and Jack represent your temperature gauge in your team and in your business. So I would urge you to think about who are your Mollies and Jacks. And if you can't think of who they are, go about trying to find them, because when you get them and you can get feedback from them, they become a vital part of moving forward. So we've talked about what creating alignment is, and also talked about why it's really beneficial by looking at those examples with the companies. So how do you therefore go about it? So there are 5 steps that we need to think about. So first of all, it's about starting with why. You need to define what your why is, what your purpose is, your vision, and then communicate it. Step 2 is about ensuring the right skills. So making sure that we're employing the right people with the right skills to achieve what you need in that vision. Thirdly, it's about resources. This is about getting out of our people's way and allowing them to do their jobs. So making sure that they have the right resources and then they can do their jobs easily and quickly. Fourthly, it's about engagement. It's about giving people the reason that why they've got to buy into the why. And finally, number 5, it's about creating a clear, consistent action plan. And you may think the action plan needs to be further forward, but actually, if you need to do it at the end, because you need to have thought about all of these things before you start moving forward and delivering those actions that will deliver your purpose and goals. So let's look at those individually. First of all, defining the why. Why are you doing what you're doing and what's the point of it? In 2016, Forbes cited that communicating the common purpose was probably the #1 leadership challenge for businesses. And PricewaterhouseCoopers, who do an annual global chief executive survey, said that 1/4 of their global CEOs saw redefining their purpose as key to engaging their workforce. So bearing in mind where we are in the UK with Brexit looming, it's absolutely crucial that you have a coherent and communicated vision. So it's about thinking about, is your vision and common purpose clear and can everyone articulate it at every level? Because if they can't, we're probably not putting it in simple enough language. And if you're under any illusion that maybe that purpose isn't important, then, just look at the research that's coming out, both around motivation and also around multi-generations working in workplaces. Dan Pink, in his book in Drive, said that one of the 3 common intrinsic motivators is a belief in purpose. And the research looking at millennials and Gen Z coming into the workplace are showing that younger generations favour working for companies with a purpose that takes into account the organisation's broader impact on society rather than just a profit focus. Because let's face it, very few of us get out in the morning enthused about the thought of delivering profit. So let's look at your why. So first of all, think about, what is your vision? Now, I'm sure many of you have got one, and you might have a vision and purpose that's been there for, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, could be longer. But my challenge for you is it fit for purpose anymore? Does everybody in your organisation know it? Is it clear? Is it straightforward, simple, and quite short so that people can understand what that is? If it isn't, you may need to go back and review it. And if you haven't got one, then you need to think about it. What does your business want to achieve in 5 years, in 10 years, in 30 years? What's your goal? What will make you unique, and how will you stand out from the crowd? You need to think about what that is and then really hone it and test it. And also get feedback on it from the team. If it's been there for a while, go out and speak to people in the organisation. What do they know of it? Do they buy into it? Because it's important that they do, because if they don't buy into it and they don't have the same vision as you, they're not going to get behind it and drive it. Then once we've looked at vision, it's about looking at common purpose. And this is about thinking about why we're there. What is the purpose of our organisation? And what are we looking to deliver? And also thinking about, are we all pulling in the same direction? Now, this is not just about you as the leader, whether you be the senior team who are pulling this together, or the function leader or the department leader coming up with a common purpose and then saying to everybody as a fait accompli, hello, here it is. It doesn't work like that. Common purpose is common for a reason. Lots of people feed into it. So at a team level, all of your team need to be involved in defining and agreeing what that common purpose is. So pull them together and talk about it so that you are sure of why you're really there and what you should be doing, and everybody has the same image of what that is. If you're looking at that on an organizational level, then we're talking about focus groups. Go out, garner feedback from people at different levels, speak to them, and that will do two things. A, it will allow you to really understand how your people see your business, but also it will show them that you're listening to them and engaging with them, which will really help with getting them to buy in when you're then cascading and rolling it out. And that leads us to the third thing. Once you've got that vision and you've got that common purpose, you need to communicate it. And that needs to be communicated throughout the business at every level, clearly, simply, and succinctly. Because often as leaders, we're not clear enough. And when we communicate things, we've got a habit of dressing things up in fancy language and using loads of corporate jargon because it makes us sound really clever. But the reality is people just don't understand it. Those who are new into businesses just feel as if they've been locked out the club because there's a whole load of corporate speak they don't understand. And the rest of people just ignore it. And so when you're communicating, it's got to be simple and it's got to be straightforward. And it's got to be normal language that you would use, if you were standing in the queue to buy a sandwich with somebody. But it's also got to be sent out in a really simple and easy way for people to understand. And in many different media. There's no point sending a complicated document. It's not going to jump out of the sea of emails that your people receive every day. Nor, to be fair, if it's too long-winded, are they going to even read it? They're just not going to understand it. So it's vitally important that we get our message out in a very simple way, because otherwise it gets lost in the ether. And then as business leaders, 6 months later, we wonder why our teams aren't doing what we asked them to do. Well, the reason is simple. The message that we thought we gave was not the one they received. So the more clearly that we can communicate it at every level, every time we have the opportunity to deliver that message, the better it will be. And that needs to be in a format that is easy for our people to understand, not in the way that's the most simple and easy way for us. And finally, I'll put point 4 down. Molly and Jack, they come back again. We then need, once we've communicated, cascaded that through the business, to go and speak to Molly and Jack and find out if they've got the message. Because if we've started to drip feed a cascade down and Molly and Jack haven't got the message, then something's gone wrong somewhere along the line. This is just a glorified version of Chinese whispers. So you need to use them as your temperature checkers and constantly go back and make sure they've got the message. So defining the why is honing the vision, understanding the common purpose, communicating that through, and then checking the message has got there. Once we've done that, we can move on to the next step, which is about having the right skills. So with this, I want you to really think about your people that you have in your teams and the skills that they possess. And I want you to look at the people in your business and make sure that you do a really honest appraisal of them, about who they are, what they're capable of doing, and actually what delivering. Now, I'm sure some of you who are listening might be saying, our people are fine, Annabelle. We've absolutely got that nailed. This isn't something we need to do. We've got fantastic recruitment. We're really great at onboarding. We've got excellent development programs in place. We've got it sewn up. And if that's the case, I'd say brilliant, lovely, move on, go to step 3. But I'd also challenge, do you really have it set up? Have you got all of those succession plans in place? If I came into the business and said, right, show me the succession plans for every department and let me know who you've got highlighted to go into all your key roles in 3 years' time and what those steps are that they're going to go through to do that, would you be able to give me that? And would you be able to tell me exactly who you've pinpointed within your talent pool, what steps you're going to take them through on their development program over those times, and what you're doing with those who maybe aren't performing? Because if you can, then that's fantastic. But if you can't, and bearing in mind we're talking about setting a vision 3, 5, maybe 10 years out, we need to have those things there as well, because if they aren't there, then we're not going to be delivering that. And it's also about thinking about not only about those who are fantastic, but those people who wind you up, who don't necessarily deliver, and who possibly are those source of moaning at meetings. Because if you have got those people who come up who aren't doing what you want them to do and aren't behaving in a way that you want them to behave, then I'd ask, why are they still with you? Because they're probably not serving you in the best way. So this is being really honest. This is about thinking, Are my people capable of doing what I need them to do to deliver the vision? Not deliver what we need to do this year, deliver what I need them to be doing in 3 years' time. We need to be leading for the future, not leading for now. And also think about, within that, who do I need to engage? Who do I need to make sure I get on board? Who are going to be those people who spread those opinions for me and take this message forward? Who do I need to spend more time with? You know, who's showing signs of stress? Who looks as if they're struggling? And there's a reason we've got the challenge and support model up there on the screen, because actually, you know, people sit in different areas. We want to be creating high performance when we're driving and creating alignment, but if we haven't got the level of support right, we might have people who are stressed, and actually we need to be spending some more time with them and asking the question, what does support look like for you, and really helping them. We've then got to think about, so who do we need to develop? Who might need to be stretched a little bit out of their comfort zone from that high comfort environment into the high performance environment, and just do a little bit more and understand and recognize what their potential is. And then finally, we need to think about those people who might be sitting in the apathy box, those who either don't care or aren't delivering. And we need to be honest with them and say, you know, do you want to be here anymore? And if not, help them leave and do it in a good way. So we're looking at vision and purpose, and then we're looking at our people, because it's important that we have the right people doing the right things to help drive that forward. Once we've done that, we're moving to step 3, and that's where we get to the right resources. And this is really about thinking what we need to get the jobs done. Now, when I talk about resources, there are many, many things, so I'm not even going to start to tap into what those could be, because depending on what your business is delivering, they could be very different. But there are 3 common ones and 3 really obvious ones that we don't often get right. Now, the first one is time. This is about thinking about, are your people using their time in the best way? Are they utilizing their days correctly? Are they working excessively long hours and maybe not working at their best? Actually, are you using your time the right way? Are you thinking about who you need to spend your time with? Are you focusing on those people who will really deliver for you and help drive your vision forward? Are you spending enough time with them rather than ticking things off on the to-do list? So, and really understanding their challenges and enabling them to move forward and coaching and supporting them. And also, are there people out there who actually may just have so much on that they need help prioritizing? And do you need to spend time with them to get them to really concentrate on the key things, so that you're doing a few things really effectively and really well, rather than spreading all of your resource and people thinly and not achieving very much at all? The next thing is about money. So this is about making sure that the funds are available in the budget, or that the people are available to do the job in hand. Time and again, I see initiatives, and this has been either in organizations I'm working with or businesses I've been part of, where we set off to try and do something new, and we realize halfway down the line that we either haven't got enough money in the budget, or we haven't prioritized the budget effectively to be able to do what we need to do, or we don't have enough people to be able to do it with the right skills. And therefore we end up with huge frustration. And because actually what we're doing is we're asking people to do a job that's become impossible and they're never going to achieve. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but we haven't got the money to do that. We can't always make sure we've got the necessary resource. You know, we've got to run with what we run with. And I would challenge that and say, no, you actually need to reassess your goals. Because if you want to create alignment, and if you really want to focus on your vision and achieve what you know you want to achieve and the potential that your business has, now is the time to adapt. And you really need to focus that money on the right things and use it to make a difference rather than spending it on nice to haves. Because the thing is, you always have the budget. You just need to spend it in the right way. The third piece is around technology and environment. And I think if you look at all the literature out there, there's probably more on this than anything else. Have your people got the right tech to do their jobs? Have they got the right software that makes their lives easy? Have they got the right broadband speed? Have they got easy access to Wi-Fi? Can they use their own devices at work? Can they work offline? Can they work from home? Can they work from wherever they are? Are you bothered about the 9 till 5, or do you trust them to just do their jobs? Because having the right kit and being able to work flexibly is really crucial. And also, do you have the right environment that enables them to do that? And this is an interesting one. Daily I go into offices which are absolutely beautiful. They're open plan, really nicely designed and set up. But everyone sat there with earphones in. And it really makes me wonder why that is. So I did a bit of digging. And there's quite a few bits of research out there that looks around it. Steelcase, which is on the screen, did a survey and reckoned that people lose about 86 minutes a day in distractions. But also that over 30% of people go home to get work done rather than do it in the office because there's just too much going on and they can't concentrate. And I would certainly say, if I think of coaching clients that I have, and also my experience over the years working in open plan environments, that's very much the case. So think about, have you given your people what they need? And actually, more to the point, have we taken away what they don't need? How many of you sit there swamped on a daily basis with emails, 100, 200 plus a day, most of which you don't need, most of which you're just being copied in on, when actually you could do with 10? How often do we stop and think about flooding people with information and meetings and actually instead giving people time to do their jobs? Entrepreneur.com found that 45% of people's time is spent doing their jobs. Everything else is spent on barriers, whether it be pointless meetings, poor processes, or too many emails. So when we're looking at resources, it's about looking at using our time wisely, spending our money in the right places to allow things to be done, and making it easy for people to work. Because when they can do that, they can focus on the job rather than focus on trying to get around the barriers that are being put in place for them. So step 4 is about engagement. This is about really making sure, once we've defined and communicated that purpose, about getting our people to want to deliver that vision. Really understanding what the incentive is and how we can get them to buy in. Engaging employees can often be one of the biggest challenges. So creating that passion within them to allow you to follow and deliver the purpose is really key. Now, for those of you who do benchmark from an employee survey point of view, whether that be an annual survey, something online, or just feedback through from your employees, the information on the screen is the data that Hays pulled from a really wide global survey back in 2013. And set that benchmark for high-performing organizations globally at 73% engagement level. So that really allows you to see how you're benchmarking out across other areas. But there's 4 key areas that we need to think about when we're delivering engagement. And they really help us in creating alignment because it makes sure all of the steps that we've talked about so far are in place. So first of all, it's about ensuring that the employees are engaged with the organization. They understand the why and they're positive about your business and they want to deliver it. So this really reflects organizational leadership as well as trust, fairness, values, and respect. So it's about really understanding what your people feel about the business and talking to them and getting that. The next piece that is important is about engagement with their line manager. And this is where you will get a feeling about whether or not alignment is happening, because if your line managers are cascading the message and passing on those strategic goals and initiatives and making sure that they're aligned and within their teams, then your people will feel valued. They will feel as if they're being treated fairly. They will be getting feedback, and more importantly, they'll definitely be getting direction. And that's crucial for engagement with direct supervisors. So think about, have you got a feedback culture? And is it a positive feedback culture? Do we say well done to people? Do we celebrate success? Or do we just pass bad news on? Because when we pass bad news on, that's when our engagement levels dip and people feel less inclined to work to help drive those goals. The third piece obviously is strategic alignment. So having a clear strategy and a set of goals aligned through the organization so everybody understands it. That's what we're talking about today. And the fourth piece is competency. And this is really about thinking about, do the managers have the right skills to get the job done? So that links back to point 2. Are our people displaying the right behaviors and really walking their talk? Reviewing those areas within business really help you to discover if you're creating the right environment to motivate people and whether or not team members are satisfied and engaged on what they're trying to achieve. So it's worth setting up a mechanism to get that feedback, because it will really allow you to not only know, is your message being cascaded through and do your people understand it, but how well do they buy into it? And ultimately then, how well are they delivering it? So we've defined our vision and common purpose. We have made sure we've got the right people, got the right skills, they're competent and they're working on the right things, and that they're working on the right things to deliver for the organisation in the future. We've looked at the resources and made sure that we're not getting in our people's way and that we're enabling to do their job easily so that they can focus on what we want them to do, which is deliver the vision. And also we have given them an incentive, we've engaged them in it, and we've made sure that they want to do it and they're driving it forward. If we've done all of that, we're at the final stage, we're at the action plan. And this is the most crucial step. At this stage, we need to make sure that the what we are doing links back to the why we are doing it. And that this is understood at every single level of our business, so that there are action plans all the way through that are really clear, that link back to our strategic plans and are coherent. So we need to make sure that they're clear, they're easily understood, and they're aligned. Then need to make sure that they're relevant to the person. And that's the bit about making sure that individual goals are delivering team outcomes, that team goals are delivering functional outcomes, and that functional goals are delivering organizational outcomes. By doing that, every level of the organization feeds the level above, which allows us to deliver our vision. Now, when we're doing that, it's important for the individual to know how their contribution matters, so that they can see the link and they understand why they are important, even if they are just the janitor. And the final part of that action plan is to make it smart. So I want you to think about those action plans that you've got in place for your department currently. Are they actually outcomes with measures, with an outcome, so do you know what good looks like at the end, or are they just a list of tasks that you want to do? Making them smart, so putting in that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound outcome is really helpful. Now, SMART's been around a long time for a reason, because it works, it's simple. So think about what you have in place and think, have you got SMART outcomes in there? Have you got measures, and have you actually got tangible outcomes that you know when you will achieve your goals? And then think about, how do you communicate your action plan and how do you use it? Is it being checked regularly? Is it being reviewed on at least a monthly basis, and strategically probably on a quarterly basis? Because if it isn't, it's probably not in the most usable format. Very often we produce them, they disappear onto the shared drive or into somebody's folder, or they get printed out and popped in a drawer and we never look at them again. An action plan should be something that's live. It should be brought out at every meeting. It should have coffee stains on it. It should have scribbles. It should have goals removed where they aren't useful anymore and new ones added in pen because we've added it on and we haven't had time to update it. Because when an action plan looks like that, or it could be on a whiteboard the same way, you know people are doing stuff with it. And that's the key thing. Action plans are there to be used, tracked, and make things happen. If they're pristine and they've never been looked at, why have you got them in the first place? So those are our 5 steps. And if you do all of those steps, setting a vision and a common purpose, communicating well, ensuring your people have the right skills and are doing the right things and demonstrating the right capabilities and really walking their talk. And if you engage them and give them a reason to drive this forward and ensure that you're getting out of their way and enabling them to happen, and then having a real coherent, clear and consistent action plan, will you deliver alignment and therefore change how your business is working and improve your results and improve your levels of engagement? Well, I'm going to say maybe. And I'm saying maybe for a reason, because as you'll see on the screen, if you follow all of those steps, you'll have followed the key 5 steps of Noster's model for complex change. But you'll also see, if you forget one of those steps or don't do it particularly well, that there's a knock-on effect. You know, so if we miss the vision out and don't communicate it clearly and everybody doesn't get it, we get a bit of confusion. If we make sure people haven't got the right skills and they're not capable, then they just end up being anxious and we get a stressed business. If we haven't given them the right incentive and engaged our people in the message and what we're looking to achieve, they just work against us. If the resources aren't there and we haven't got enough people, or we haven't got the right tools, or it's just hard to do your job, people are just incredibly frustrated. And if the action plan isn't clear, then you make false starts or just feel as if you're not quite getting there. So it's important that we do all of those steps, but then there's 2 more things that you really need to do. And these are absolutely vital. And I say that because the organisations that I talked to you about earlier in the webinar did this consistently. And when I've been in organisations who've created alignment, these have been the things that we've done. So first of all, be clear about the message and make sure it's communicated. I've repeated that throughout the session. Secondly, be accountable. You need to take accountability for your own actions. And if you want alignment to happen, you need to live it and breathe it. And you need to do what you say you will do every single day. And if you believe why you're doing it and you keep communicating that message to your people, then change will happen and they'll buy into that message because they will hear it again and again. And the second thing is about consistency. Don't deviate away from the message and the vision that you've created just because you decide you don't like it anymore. If it's still fit for purpose, run with it. Creating alignment and achieving your goals is not about jumping on the newest bandwagon when a great idea comes about. And it isn't about changing things for change's sake. If you look at those organisations who I talked about earlier, they kept the same principles all the way through. I mean, admittedly, they changed some things, but the core remained. So this isn't about not adapting, because absolutely you need to do that. And resilience is important, but we have to keep doing what we say we're going to do, because when we're consistent, people get the same message and then they start to believe it. So adapt the message by all means, but make sure that the message is the same and that everybody is saying the same thing so that there's no dissonance, no lack of trust, no infighting within your senior teams who are saying different things and giving out different messages. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to be consistent all the way down the organisation. Because when we do that, we create change. We create lasting change and we embed it within the organisation. And people end up remembering it far longer than you ever thought they would. So I'm going to leave you with the following checklist to have a think about, to reflect on and think about what are those steps that you've got in place. Is it vision and common purpose that you need to think about? Or actually, are they okay, but we just to make sure we're communicating it? Is it that we need to look at our people? Have we got the right ones in the right place? Are the plans correct? And actually, are we thinking far enough ahead in doing that? Is it about resources? You know, have we got the right tools for our people to do the job, or do we need to get some of those barriers out of the way? Or is it about engagement? Do we need to get people to understand what the why is and really want to deliver it? Or is it that final step? Have we actually done all of the others really well, but we're not particularly great at following it up and making sure that the actions are happening? And does that need to be where the focus is? So at that point, I'm going to leave it here. I could talk about this subject all day, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to let you reflect on those steps, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck in moving forward and creating alignment within your teams and businesses. I would like to thank you all for joining me today. I've really appreciated the chance to be able to talk to you. And if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask me, as we said earlier, please tweet them using #RTBwebinars. Or if you think that you might want RaiseBar to help you with ways in creating alignment within your business, then please do get in touch with us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and I hope I get the opportunity to do so again in the future. Thank you.